Welcome, and thanks for stopping by. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to our podcast on one of your favorite platforms, I'm glad you're here. I'm Kevin James Kelly, founder and creator of the Millennium Beat LLC. I also am the host of the English version of the Millennium Beat podcast. Join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern as we help you share your story. I bring a unique perspective, insight, and commentary for every episode, discussing ways to share the gospel through stories, miracles, and testimonies. Our mantra at the Millennium Beat is encouraging the world one story at a time. At this time, I would like to thank our partners and sponsors for their dedication to helping the show to grow. We cannot do what we do without their help. This week's show is sponsored by the McLeod Painting Group. Interior and exterior is their expertise. Licensed and insured in the state of Florida with over 45 years of experience, expanding over 3 generations. Give them a call at 772-501-0324. Again, that is 772-501-0324. Riverside.fm, your online recording studio. Professional podcast and video creation simplified. Easily record podcasts and videos in studio quality from your browser or mobile app. Create high quality content with ease. Local recording up to 4K video resolution. Enjoy high quality recording with your computer, smartphone, or iPad, and edit your content in your virtual studio. You can download Riverside.fm from the Apple App Store or get it on Google Play. You already have an exceptional camera at hand. Now all you need is the Riverside.fm app. It is recommended to use the Chrome browser and keep it open till you and your guest upload is at 100%. With some other platforms, the recording could be choppy and pixelated when your internet connection is poor during the call. With Riverside.fm, your recordings will always be smooth and freeze-free, thanks to local recording for all your participants. Scan the QR code to bring you right directly to Riverside.fm. By using the link to Riverside.fm, when you sign up for a plan, it also helps the Millennium Beats podcast. Thanks for sticking around. Please support our sponsors, which will help us grow. If you'd like to know more about how to become a sponsor or other ways to help, please scan the QR code with your phone or tablet. It will bring you directly to Learn How to Help. You may also go to our website at www.tmb2000.net and you'll see a button on the top right. Do you have a great story or testimony to tell? If you want to be a guest, please scan the QR code with your phone or tablet. It will bring you directly to the Become a Guest form. Fill it out, and we'll get back to you. After viewing the document, we will schedule an appointment with you to be on our show. If you have any comments, concerns, or questions, you may always call me at 407-624-9957. Leave a brief voicemail, and I'll get back to you. You also may leave a comment using the Contact Us section at the bottom of our homepage. All right, sit back and grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage. The show will start right after a brief 60-second intro. Hey everybody, this is the Millennium Beat with your host Kevin James. I'm in the studio again with Nikki Davidson. Nikki was telling her story and some of the things that she's gone through at her young age. And in this story, we're going to hear a little bit of how God got involved and kind of changed her life a little bit and stuff like that. So I want to, as you are, because if you've been listening for the last 2 weeks, you're saying, hey, when's something going to change? You know, I want to hear the good stuff, you know. So Nikki, tell us some good stuff. I mean, not that the other stuff was totally bad, but you know what I'm saying.
I promise, guys. I promise it.
Yeah.
It does.
So
get
you
better.
left us off. You have now got your GED, almost by default, but you got it. That's good. That's good that you got it. And then you decided to move in with your aunt in up in New York, right?
Yes, I was renting a room from her, so I
So
was.
so now that's where you live. And let's tell us all the good things that's happened from that point on.
Okay, so the good stuff didn't start yet.
Okay, well,
it does.
How much further does it before it starts? How many more a year?
So
months?
I'm 18 at this point.
When's the good stuff start?
God didn't come into my life until I was 23.
Okay, so 18 to 23. All right. Well, we're not going to tune in for a fourth week. So, if you can recap between, I know that you probably have a lot to talk in between.
No,
18.
I'm gonna really, I'm just gonna
skim through 18 to
Skim it.
23. So that way people are listening and saying, this is the climax of the end of some good stuff, and that's what they, so if they're listening to this for the first time and not listen to part 1 and part 2, that they're getting some really good inspirational stuff. So, all right, recap quickly of 18 to 23. So.
Okay, so so when I was 18, I was renting a room in my aunt's house, and then I got a job down the block at the Burger King, and then I started working full time right then and there. Like it was like 3 days. I was there for 3 days. I got the job, and boom, I was working like 40 to over 40 hours a week at that point, right off bat, and I did it because I was making money, and I was doing what I had to do to support myself and fuel my career. I was very driven.
Right.
The complete opposite of how I was in school. I never missed a day.
Right.
I was a reliable person, the person I could always call on. Even if I was feeling ill or whatever, I would force myself to go in. Like I was always just very dedicated from day one when it came to working.
Right.
Because it was a totally different ball game. I was making money. So I was buying stuff I wanted. I was paying my aunt rent. I was buying all my food, all my
taking care
other
of
needs.
You're becoming an
everything.
adult.
Right, pretty
You're
much.
not a kid anymore.
Yep. So I was doing what I had to do. I didn't believe in asking anybody for anything. I took care of myself. I paid, if I needed to go somewhere, I paid for cabs. I never asked for rides or anything. My aunt
self-sufficient.
I would take a ride if my aunt offered it to me, but other than that, I wasn't asking for nothing. Yep. So whatever. I got in a relationship with this one woman who was a Satanist. And, at the time, I didn't really have a set of beliefs of my own, so it didn't bother me, and it just was what it was. And I dated her from that time on up until like 2019, on and off, on and off. It was an abusive situationship. She wasn't physically abusive because she lived in the Bronx.
Right.
I was on the island, so we had too much distance in between us for her to really like hit me. Most of our arguments were on the phone.
Right.
But it was an abusive relationship, mostly very mentally abusive. She had like a lot going on. She was like very psychopathic, and she had claimed to have multiple personalities and stuff. And I was just being like mentally.
Now we would call it she had multi-demons.
Yeah. So I was dealing with that for quite some time. But during that time period, I was just working every day and doing what I had to do for myself, regardless of how I felt. Sometimes I felt terrible. It didn't matter. I was still doing what I had to do for myself. So whatever. When that all ended, 2020, that's when. No, 2019, shortly after that, that's when I met my second girlfriend. That was my second love. My first love was the other chick.
Right.
Second girlfriend, I met her. She was my customer at Dunkin', because I was working at Dunkin' Donuts. I was at Dunkin' Donuts for 6 years.
Okay, so you moved from Burger King to Dunkin'.
Yeah. I was at Burger King for 7 months. I left because they had a remodel.
Okay.
And I didn't have a car.
So now you're working for Dunkin'.
Yeah, I was at Dunkin'. I met my second girlfriend as a customer. She came in, whatever. Then we hit it off right away. We were together for like 2 years, pretty much. We moved in together. After like 6 months. That's when I got my first apartment.
Okay.
And
you move it out of your aunt's.
Yeah, and sometimes I would stay over her house. Sometimes she would stay over in my room at my aunt's house. Like she got along good with my family and stuff.
Right.
So it was all good with that one. We there wasn't really like too much bad in that relationship. Like we got along pretty well. I'm not gonna say it was all good because obviously it came to an end, but we wouldn't like have anything that was too bad like the other one per se. But she was a lot older than me. She was 45.
Oh, that is older.
So when I met her, I was 20. Well, when she first met me, I think she was like 43. Yeah, we were together for 2 years. She was 43,
Right.
and I was 23. So it was a 20-year age gap. She's from Vietnam. She came here via her husband, but like they never had an official wedding or anything like that. It was just like for the green card type situation. They had a kid together, and then he came out the closet as gay and said he didn't want to be with women anymore after they had the kid. So then, and at that point, she was like, "Oh well, I think I'm a lesbian too." Anyway, so and then basically she started dating this woman for like 10 years, and then after that 10-year duration, that's when she met me.
Okay.
Whatever. So we moved in together. She helped me a lot financially. I never asked her to. I was a very independent person, so
Right.
I wasn't used to that. I didn't like asking for help, and I wasn't used to accepting things from others, especially because in my last situation before that, I was the giver and I was being used all the time.
Right.
So she bought me my car that I still drive now. I was driving a Hoopty at the time. That's the car that I saved up my tip money for at Dunkin'.
Okay.
I bought a 1998 Saturn.
Okay.
So
I know
whatever.
that car, Saturn.
I was driving that, and then it broke down one day because the battery died on it. And I was just going to buy a new battery, but she was like, "No, you're not driving that no more. I'm going to buy you a car." So she bought me the car, and we had an agreement that she was going to pay like $400 a month of the rent because she had her house too, Her quote unquote husband, even though he was like a she was taking stuff to
Right.
become a woman too. He was trans.
Right.
She used to dress him up and stuff. We used to take him to the clubs. Anyway, he lived downstairs. She lived upstairs, had her own master bedroom and bathroom and everything. She made an agreement with me. She was going to pay $400 of the rent every month. She said she couldn't do more than that because she got to take care of her mother and her daughter and everything.
Right.
She wasn't able to live with me full time. She was only able to live with me part time. So she'd come stay with me at night, after she finished her day, because she would have to take her mother to all these doctor's appointments. Her
Right.
brother, he took her whole family over here. So, because they had an agreement that even though they're doing their own thing, he financially supported everything still for her because they're friends. And yeah, so she couldn't be with me all the time. I was pretty much living by myself, it felt like, for the most part, even though we were together. But she would come home every night. She would cook me a dinner. She would help me as far as cleaning and stuff like that. And I paid the rest of the overhead, and I paid for the utilities and everything else.
Okay.
So she was actually a Catholic. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know. So, I know. Yes.
All right.
So, and she would always tell me like she felt like very confused too because her she's from Vietnam, so
Right.
like her one side of the family they're like Buddhist, but the other side of the family they were like European and stuff, they French, so
Right.
they were Catholic. So like even though they were Catholics, she always like had the cultural influence as well. So they did. They believed in a lot of the spiritual things too. So I was like quote unquote spiritual at the time. I was very like into the little crystals and the
New Age.
new age stuff. Yeah, I was into the tarot and all that other stuff. So whatever. So we were like kind of on the same page with some things, but then we were not on the same page as far as Jesus. Because she believed in Jesus and I didn't.
Okay.
So we, at first we used to get into like some arguments about it sometimes where she'd be like, "Oh, why don't you believe in God? Like you need to believe in God." Like, and she would just try to convince me, and I'm like, okay, but like, I don't, and we just get into a debate about it, and basically, she would say to me that she knows she's going to hell for her lifestyle, but what can she do? She loves me.
Okay.
So she, in her mind, she's like, I'm very aware that I'm going to hell for this.
Right. And she still kept doing it because she loved you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And She used to say like there's different levels to hell. Like
Right. Well, Catholic. Yeah.
yeah,
They would
yeah.
have
So
that,
she's
yeah.
like, oh, uh,
So she had a little bit of Christianity in her.
yes, yes.
So a little bit, and
She
she
would
knew
always say,
she was
yeah.
sinning and going down the wrong path.
She
and
said she's going to the third level. She
Oh,
said
okay.
she's not going like to the worst level is because apparently that's where the killers and the rapists are. But she was like,
okay,
she's like, I'm
yeah.
going to the third level.
Third level of hell.
And I used to
Okay.
laugh about it because I used to think it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, you're not convincing me here. Like this
Right.
doesn't sound like something I want to be into. But whatever you
Right.
say, whatever floats your boat.
Okay. So that was your first, basically, from a Catholic perspective, that was your first intake of a living God.
Yeah,
Somewhat, yeah.
well, kind of, because when I was a kid, actually, we were Roman Catholics as well.
Oh, okay.
We never went to church.
Never went to church.
obviously.
Yeah. See, I
yeah.
was a Roman Catholic, but I was an altar boy, and I went for all the way until my 17 years old.
Yeah, so I actually made all my sacraments.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so I
First communion and all that kind
Yep,
of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
I
See.
even have the pictures still. I did the baptism when I was an infant. I did the communion, and I did my confirmation when I was
Yep.
in middle
First
school.
communion
Yep.
and confirmation.
So during all of that hectic chaos, I still made my sacraments. Now we didn't go to church outside of that.
Right. Well, a lot of times Catholics are, it's the 2 times a year they go to church is Christmas and Easter.
Yup.
Yeah.
Just
Or a
like
funeral.
That. So once in a while, yes.
Yeah.
And so that's how it was pretty much. But this is my second run with hearing about the Catholic thing because I had I distanced my mind from the Catholic thing like a long time ago. Cause
so up to this point,
like-
you've had to run in with a Satanist. Now you're running in with a Catholic.
yeah.
And then you said there's another Catholic that you're involved.
Oh no.
Not involved with.
Just
that second one.
just me.
Just you. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay. So now you're involved with a older woman Catholic
Yeah.
that's giving you a little bit of spiritual insight.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move it along there
Yeah.
and we'll go from there. How did really that end and went on from there? Because you're at that age. You're probably, how old are you probably at that time?
23.
23. So okay. All right. So let's pick it up there. Moving the train down the track. What's happening after that? I mean, because that's how you're a little bit. I call it like a little sprinkle of God, type of thing. God is just a little bit sprinkling on you. So did anything that she said, even nothing against Catholics. I mean, Catholics are great people, and just like any denomination, they always have something. We all have something weird about our denominations. And that's how it is. Did she say anything to you that really kind of started triggering you thought down the path of Christianity, of understanding dealing with a relationship with God? Because Catholics, I don't think they really have a one-on relationship with Christ.
Right.
They know who he is, the guy who was on the cross. He died for our sins, and it was from Mary was his mother, and a lot of traditional things.
Very much traditional.
So I mean,
yes.
they have and there are some very spiritual Catholics today, believe in healing and laying hands on people. And
'Cause in my household growing up, that you see Catholic stuff everywhere. Just like crosses with Mary and beads and stuff like that, and
Right.
that one image of Jesus that you always see.
right on the cross.
Like we always had imagery like that in my house.
So you had that in your house. So now she's saying some stuff. So what's happening in your life there? Because that probably is a seeds that now have been planting a little bit in your life. So,
Well, my mom and my aunts and everything, they always, and my grandma too, they always try to tell me, like, nobody in my family ever really followed the Bible,
Right.
but they knew maybe bits and pieces here and there, and then just about believing in him pretty much. So they just always just drill it in my head about how I should believe in him. I should believe in him. So I had a lot of seeds that were planted. So it really was me being very stubborn in my way, because it didn't seem logical enough for me.
right.
So I was an intellectual. I used to read. I used to be into philosophy a lot.
Okay.
I used to read a lot of those books and things like that. So it was really bugging me because I always had questions. I was always very inquisitive, and I used to actually like bounce out of my sleep with a question like, "Oh, I have to Google this." Like
Wow.
questions about like just anything like the universe and stuff like that. I was just like, I want to know. Like, I used to read a lot of history stuff and philosophy, and I just read all the freaking books and the articles, and I would always piece together in my mind all of these ideas about, like the afterlife and what we're dealing with here on
Right.
Earth and everything. Like, I was into the spiritual stuff, but I was never like fully on that path either, because I didn't fully believe in that either. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like, all right, so there's some truth here, there's some truth in this, but I know that all religions they contain a little bit of truth in them.
Right.
That's how I felt.
Well, the devil is, he takes a truth. I mean, there's always a little truth in every lie that he has.
Right. So,
you
but
know?
I felt like it was all lies.
Right.
But I felt like there's bits and pieces of truth in all the religions.
Right.
So I was just like, I'm looking for answers. That's how I always was. I was always looking for answers. So it used to drive me crazy when I still couldn't find the answer. Like,
Right.
What are we doing here? And where are we going? And like all that stuff, life and death. I
Right.
was fascinated by it. And I was so like determined to like find that. And I would come up with these little ideas in my head every now and then, be like the aha moments, but then it still just didn't really satisfy me, because I'm
Right.
like, I always felt inside that I was deceiving myself. Like, I always felt
Because
like,
you were.
yeah, I always like, I'm such a skeptic, I'm such a skeptic to the point of I didn't even trust myself, like with what I believed.
Right.
So what I used to do is, if I believed in something, I used to Google the opposite, and I used to read the opposite of what I believed, just so I could have a counter argument, just so I could.
You would debate yourself.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I used to do. And so like with the God thing, to me, even though I felt like it was ridiculous, I could never fully refute it either.
Right.
Because there were so many things that did make sense that bothered me that I could not refute it. So I would kind of just like read stuff sometimes, just to try to like see what the other side looked like, just so I'd have that info. And it bothered me that every time I read it, I was like, I can't refute it. Like, with the
Now, you said read it. Now, what are you referring to? The Bible? Or?
like
Okay, so-
scriptures in the
So
Bible.
you started reading the scripture. You started reading the Bible. And you're trying to dispute it, but you couldn't.
Yeah, so bits and pieces of it, yes.
Anything particular that stands out that you can, like, say, I was reading this, I was trying to dispute it, but I couldn't. Anything particular, one thing that you could think of, like a major thing that you were trying to prove it wrong, but the Lord proved it was right. Anything?
This regarding the world itself.
The world itself. Okay.
Because I always felt like, because I was one of those quote unquote, and still am, conspiracy theorists.
Okay.
Some people they think what I say is ridiculous, but I believe it's very true.
Well, there's always
with
there's
things-
always some truth in everything, so.
With things regarding like the government and celebrities and things like that being under MK Ultra mind control programming, having like demons possess them. Basically, I believed in demons.
Right.
I believed that demons were real, and I believed in spirits and stuff and paranormal, because I had plenty of paranormal experiences and stuff like that. So knowing all of that, it always bothered me that that's what I felt like that was all that was there, that it was all just evil things. So I
Right.
was very aware that the world we are in is evil.
Right.
And I hated that, because
Okay.
I've always been like, not to a Christian standard, but to a worldly standard, I've always kind of been a good person, I believed I had my morals and principalities, and I believed in them strongly. And it always bothered me that there was so much evil in the world. So like when I knew about these things, especially with the industry I was pursuing, that I was going into, I kept pulling back from that industry because of said things.
Right.
And the more I delved into it and the closer I got to the fame or whatever you want to call it, the more I started to see the signs, and the more I started to kind of see behind the curtain. So I knew that was there, and I didn't want to progress forward because of it.
Right.
Something kept pulling me back, but at the same time, I wanted it because I wanted to use it for good, and I wanted to be able to finally relax in my life and finally like help people and stuff like that. That's what I wanted to do. But now, when I was reading some of these scriptures and what it was saying about the world, about how like, you know, like the world being deceitful and basically how you know how the world was against Jesus.
Right.
Reading that stuff, I was like, it's like, yeah, like, you know, like why is that? Like why is that? Like he had to be like this really this good force. Like it had to be something good, because if this is all there is, then it would make sense. It would make sense why somebody that is the complete opposite of that would be at odds with it.
Right.
So I couldn't refute that. But I tried very hard. I lived in denial for a while, trying really hard to refute it.
Okay.
So then I would have these conversations with what I thought at the time was with myself in the car. I would be talking out loud to myself in the car for a long time, on my way to work or on my way home from work, all the time. And I would just start saying out loud, you know, like long rambles, like all the way from the time I left the house to the time I got there. Like, all right, I would be like, all right, God, like, but this is the thing. This is what doesn't make sense to me right here. So why this and why that? And right now I feel silly because I feel like I'm not talking to anybody. I feel like I'm talking to myself over here. And if you're not real, then I feel like an idiot right now. But I mean, hopefully that you are real, because I feel really stupid. I would say things like that. I was like talking just like, you know, he was sitting right next to me type of thing.
Okay.
And I was like, I was like asking questions, you know, like stuff that I would Google and try to figure out. And I was like, you know, I'm still not really sure. I'm still not sure if I'm talking to you or not right now.
Right.
And then I would say, but if I am talking to you right now and you are real, I'm very sorry for disrespecting you. Like, listen, I don't want to disrespect you if you're real. I'm just really like, I don't really know. Like I said, there's so many lies in this world that what can I trust? There's everything in this world that I've come to know and learn about. I've realized is a lie. Like the industry and the government and everything, like there's so much evil behind the scenes, and there's all these agendas existing. Everything and everybody has an agenda. So how can I trust what anyone or anything says? How can I trust in the Bible? How can I believe that that's true? Because what if that's a lie too? And there's so many religions out here, God, like how do I know that that's the right one? How do I know that? That's what I used to say, stuff like that in my car, you know?
Did he give you an answer?
No.
Oh.
You know that verse where he says, you know, they asked for a sign and they didn't receive one. Yeah, it was like that, because I would say like all right, please, if you're real, can you please just give me a sign, please?
Well, he also said at the time, the wicked generation looking for signs, you know.
Well, I was living in a wicked generation, was I not?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find one. I couldn't see one. And then one day I just gave in. I was just like, you know what? I still don't know. I still can't fathom it. I have no idea. But you said in the Bible, you know, if that was you, that, you know, you got to have faith.
Right.
So I think since I'm just a human, and I'm demanding all of these answers and everything, but I can't possibly fathom what I'm asking. So maybe I should just stop, calm down, and just have faith. Maybe I just got to drop all that other stuff. Maybe I just got to stop thinking and focusing so hard on this and that and this and that. And maybe I just got to relax and have faith in you that you're real. And I'm just going to believe. Okay? Today, I'm going to believe. And then from there on, I continued with my research, and I continued, you know, listening to MK Ultra victims, and because a lot of them, they talk about Jesus too, because they found Jesus after everything they went through.
Okay.
I listened to them and on podcasts and stuff, and I would watch more videos and see more symbolism. Like a lot of these logos, like
Yeah.
it's probably on this too. I don't know right off bat, but anything, if you look around, a lot of these logos, they have satanic symbolism
Right.
embedded in them,
Yeah.
literally. And
Some of them do it on purpose, and some of them don't even know they're doing it.
right, but it's all evidence.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
It's evidence,
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind, because I knew that beforehand too, but it blew my mind when I finally put that piece together. And I'm familiar with a good portion of, what Satanists believe and stuff, because I dated one.
Right.
So I knew the other side of it. So now learning about Jesus was like, it was like the completion to the puzzle, I guess. Because I'm like, now it makes sense. Now it makes sense.
Okay.
The
puzzle's being put together. Yeah.
And that's how it was. So just the more time went on, I just got stronger and stronger in my faith. And I really believe, like, Jesus meets you where you are, but then he works on you in the process. Like, once you come to know him.
What are some of the things that you can go, like, A, I was this way, but B, now I'm this way? What are some things that you have in your life that has changed? So somebody that's listening that can relate to the fact that, I was exactly like that, but then I want to become what she has become. So what are some things that in your life that you've gone through that you were one way, but now as a devoted Christian and believing in God, you still can be analytical. You can still be mindset of theories that go on in the world. But as a believer, what are some things that you were one way, but now are another way? You have come. Okay, the light has been shined upon those things that you used to do, or used to say, or where I used to go. I found the Lord is lightening it, that I've turned. Some people use the word, I repented from that situation, and now I do something different. So what are some things that you could talk about, so somebody listening could relate that they are like what you were, but they want to be what you are? What?
So I was still in my homosexual relationship at the time when I changed my beliefs.
Okay.
And for a while, it just didn't sit right with me, because then being this newfound believer, I still struggled with that, because I knew in my mind that I was living in sin. And for a while, I had tried to justify it by saying, well, a lot of people that are Christians are living in sin, like, because my family members that are Christians, they never really followed anything either.
Right.
And a lot of people I knew that were Christians didn't really follow anything. Yeah. So because of that, I was like, well, I'm fine. Like, I'm okay.
Right.
Like, because,
you're comparing yourself to everybody else. And
right.
You say, oh, I'm just like them.
Yeah.
Compared to comparing yourself to Christ.
Right.
And saying, I want to be like him.
So that's how it was for a while, where I just kind of stayed in that sin. And,
right.
But I tried to accommodate in other ways, because I knew that. And I said to myself, well, and I did what most Christians do, where I'm like, oh, I'm not really a bad person. So, I mean, I'm not hurting anybody. So I'm like, maybe if I just stop doing certain things, maybe I'll be even a little bit better than that.
Right.
So that's when I actually...
some of that is the Catholic mentality, like you were saying, like the other woman, like she knew that she was wrong, but she couldn't stop, and she says, oh, I'm just going to go to hell. I'll have level 3. It's like a video game, it's like, I'm not at level 1, I'm at level 3. Yep. So you kind of knew things were a little bit messed up in a sense, and you put up with it for a little while. You justified it.
Yes. Yeah, I did.
So So what's going on from that point? I mean, did you come to a realization that, you can't justify it anymore, that you have to surrender yourself completely over to Christ?
It was a process, It was definitely a process.
I mean,
'Cause this
obviously
is
it always doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it does.
it was so it was 2020. Me and her, we broke up in summer of 2021.
Hmm.
It wasn't because of that.
No,
It wasn't.
it was just the normal relationship breakup.
Yep, normal relationship breakup. But I still struggled with it. Even when we were together, I struggled with it internally. Because then when we had sex, I felt convicted.
Hmm.
Every time, like, it felt good during the time, but then afterwards, I felt convicted. Afterwards, I wasn't.
Well, it's typical of any sin. It
Yeah,
always is pleasurable when you're doing something
yeah,
that's not right, and then afterwards the guilt starts coming, and some of it is our own guilt,
yeah,
and some of it is the Spirit saying, "Hey, I didn't really create you like this."
yeah. So I hid it. I hid it, but I felt kind of at war with myself in a sense, because I'm like, this is all I know, and this is what I like, and this is what I want to do. But
Hmm.
at the same time, why do I feel like that afterward? Like, I'm like, like, I used to try to just keep it all in, and bury it somewhere, because it was annoying me.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's what most Christians do too.
Right.
So I was once I became a Christian, I was at the very basic Christian level, bare
Right.
minimum Christian. But I did try to make an effort after a while to do some things, because when I felt that, I was like, okay, well, I got to talk to God about this. So I did. I talked to God about it, and
Did he answer? Somewhat, or
no,
no? Well, he might have answered. It might have answered in a different way. Sometimes you think, answering is like, "Yes, this is God, Nikki. This is me telling you," but he speaks to you in different ways.
God speaks to me intuitively,
Right.
and I know that
Okay.
because God will speak to me intuitively.
So he did
but
speak
I
to you.
don't.
It's just a different. It's not. You. Most people think it's an audible voice, and it's
Nope.
not. It can be. I have heard God talk in an audible voice,
Yeah.
but I also know in the spirit. Because you got to remember, when you accepted Christ at that, in that somewhere in the time that you decided to say, God, I give my life to you. That time the Spirit, and the Spirit is filling you. The Spirit of Jesus is in you, because
Yeah.
Jesus, the Spirit, and God are all the same three that
Right.
are a one. And so now there's a little bit of something that says, it's like, yeah, something's different. Something needs to change.
Yep.
And they'll give you a little nudge or something like that. So,
Yeah. So it was an intuitive thing.
yeah.
Where I would talk to him, and I would say, you know, I've always been like this, and I don't know how to be any different.
Hmm.
I don't I don't know how to even be attracted to men. I don't know how to be any other way. This is how I am, and I know people say like that you don't make mistakes and you don't make people this way, but God, this is how I've always been, since this is how I've always felt since I'm 4 years old. Like, so I don't understand how I could change. If you could please, like, I'm begging you, Lord, if you could please just accept me for the way I am. Like, if you could just accept me for this way. I used to beg. I used to say, I'll do everything else. I'll do anything for you. I'll lay my life down for you if it came down to it. But
Right.
I just wish I just hope that you will accept me for this way. Like, if you let me be this way, and I made a promise. I said, I'll be with this one woman. I won't let this go. Like, I will stay in this relationship with this woman, and I won't have sex with anybody else, only her. Like, and I hope that you accept us. And I pleaded for him to accept us as a union. I wanted to marry her, and I wanted him to recognize me and her.
Okay.
That's what I would beg for him to do for us. And I would say, like, I'll do everything else. Like, I won't do any other sins, only that one. Like, and I tried to make an effort to, like, not sin then.
Bargain with God.
Yep.
That's right.
Try to. And I did make an effort then to stop sinning in other areas of my life that actually helped me recognize that, hey, that isn't the only sin that you're stuck in. You do these other things too. And I didn't even see those things before, so it helped me see that. Right? So I started kind of like trying very hard to change my reactions to things, to I cut out pork. I wasn't trying to do this or that or this or that, right? Like all these like random other sins, right? So I wouldn't engage in them. And then at the time, like my grandma kept saying like, oh, like people that are taking this vaccine, and they're not, they're not going to be saved. Like once you take that shot, like that's the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
Like and now I know that that's not. I believe that it's preparation for it. That's what I actually believe. But at the time when this was all going crazy, that's how my family felt too. Like that this is the mark of the beast.
Right.
And my grandma has been talking about that since I'm a kid, that's going to happen basically. So I've always had some knowledge of it. Like, when the Antichrist comes on, she used to always talk about the Antichrist all the time. So I was like, oh nah, like I'm not taking that shot. Like, and I don't care. Like they could try to put a gun to my head. I'm not taking that shot. Like no matter what. And they tried to coerce me to take it. When I went to doctors and stuff, and I was like, nope.
Oh, doctors are like that. I have young doctors, and they want to give me every shot. I go, I said, I don't even take the flu shot.
And I was like, sorry, it's against my beliefs. Like, I was like, it's against my beliefs. Nope.
Well, they're finding things now that are wrong with it. And, they're coming
absolutely.
light.
100%.
So for us, the people are dying and stuff like, oh, no, it's not the shot.
Yeah, I know.
There's a whole thing.
But that's a conversation for another day. We'll do another podcast for that.
Yeah, we're going to have to do another podcast.
We'll do another podcast for that subject.
Yeah.
But in that aspect, though, that's what I tried to do. And obviously, after we broke up, this is when I actually started to get to that point where I was ready to give that up.
Right.
So we broke up mutually just because there was a lot of things in between, with her having to go back and forth all the time between, her house and my apartment and her house and our apartment. She helped pay the $400. And, we had the cats, too. Like, we got the cats when we were together. I still have my cats.
Okay.
I love my cats. But, yeah, those were, like, our kids or whatever.
Right. Fur baby.
Yeah, so it was, like, a back and forth thing. And so we just ended it on that note because I used to feel like, I felt like I was single in a relationship. I'm like, you're never around. And she had this addiction to gambling.
Oh, okay.
So that used to rear its head at times too, where we would get into arguments over it. It would go from like where she would come home every night to then she stopped coming home, and then she would come home at like 4 a.m. when I was already sleeping. And during this time, sometimes I was working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, so I was never home.
Right.
When I was home, she wasn't there, and that was a problem for me. She stopped doing a lot of stuff she used to do. She stopped cooking for me, really, stopped cleaning and stuff. And I didn't ask her to do any of that, but she did it on her own accord. And she acted like she was happy to do it. So I was happy. But then she just basically was saying, like, she's not happy. Like, this isn't what she wants. She wanted to have a fun girlfriend. She didn't want to, she thought she could settle down, and she just didn't want to settle down.
Right.
And so then we ended it at that. And then during that time, I was pretty much alone all the time. Like, she was, doing her own thing. Like, and I never really heard from her much because during the end of our relationship, she wouldn't pick up the phone either. Like, she stopped answering the phone and stuff. Like, it was very hard to contact her. She was always saying, because she's busy. When we ended that, and I spent a lot of time alone, for a while, I did what I used to do at the end of every relationship, where I went online, I went and flirted with all these women. Like, I was a big flirt. That's what I used to like to do. I used to go on. I used to chat with every every attractive woman that I saw pretty much. And I never wanted to meet up with them or anything because I was always very conservative in that aspect where I didn't like to really do anything outside of a relationship. And if I did, it was usually something sporadic and nothing was happening to me. It was only I was the giver.
Right.
So and it wasn't nothing that would have transferred anything either. So I played it safe. So I used to just like to tease, and then I would do that all the time, like clockwork, like same old me. And then at one point, I just was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I really wanted to find another woman to settle down with that was like a Christian woman then. I wanted to find a Christian woman, and then when I'm like, I kept just reading and reading, like trying to find any loophole I could to be in this lifestyle, and I'm just like, I wasn't finding anything.
You were trying to justify your sin.
Yeah, I wasn't finding anything, so I'm like, so no, I can't do that. But I'm like, well, what if I married a woman and we just never had sex? Like we would be like best friends in a relationship, and maybe, we could talk about it, but we wouldn't do it. Like, I tried to come up with every possible idea.
Right.
Because I just couldn't imagine any different. And I talked to a couple more women, and then there was this one where like we were hitting it off great, and then within a couple of days she kind of disappeared, and then I was like feeling depressed again because I'm like I'm never gonna find what I'm looking for. Like, why can't I find this? And then I'm like no, like this isn't gonna work. Like, because then what's the point of getting married to somebody and you can't do anything with them? And how is that even possible? Like, I was just like, no, that's ridiculous. I can't do that. And then I was like, well, I guess there's only one option, and I guess I'm just going to have to be celibate for the rest of my life. So I'm like, I'm going to have to commit to celibacy because my attraction for women is not going away. I still feel attraction for them, so I still don't feel any attraction to men, and I feel more masculine than feminine. I always like, dressed girly and stuff and wore makeup, but I always felt like more masculine because of how I grew up, so I just always felt like more strong, and I just, being very independent, I just couldn't imagine myself with a man. Just never, like, it just didn't sit right with me in my head. And then I also just couldn't get around the sexual aspect. Like, there was no sexual attraction at all, so I was just like, no, I'm just gonna have to be celibate now. So I prayed to God one day, and I told him, like, I'm serious, that I'm gonna give this up. So I'm gonna stop trying to bargain with you, and I'm gonna stop trying to focus on everybody else's sin, and I'm just gonna focus on my own.
Okay. Because
I said, you're not gonna ask me about everybody else's sin, you're gonna ask me about mine.
Right.
So I gotta try to get rid of that. But I need your help, Lord, because I don't know how to do this. I don't even know where to begin. Please help me. Like, please take it away. And I was still kind of like mourning the loss of my relationship at the same time. Even though I was searching for a new one, I was still in a mourning process because me and her.
You were trying to fill the void.
Yeah, I was trying to fill the void.
Yep.
And even though we split up, we still had things happen afterwards, even though when we were just friends.
Right.
And she would come over after a while. And I was lonely. And so I used to feel sad, and I used to just dwell on it. And so when I was praying to him and I was telling him about it, I said like, I'm really sad because, I loved her so much, and I really wanted to fulfill that promise I promised you and stay with her. But, it wasn't working out. And I know I can't be like this anymore too. So that's another thing. Like, I really can't start a new relationship. I don't know where to go from here. And I cried. I cried a lot when I was talking to him. And I said, like, I hope that you can restore me to however I'm supposed to be, because I don't know anything else. And I just kind of felt like for the next few months, I spent a lot of time alone because this is a month before I moved to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
This is I think December 2021. Yeah, so yeah, December 2021 this was where
Okay.
now I this was my last month in New York pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
and I quit my job because my bills were already paid off, so I was
Right.
good for the month. So I spent the last month pretty much just trying to just relax and enjoy myself for once because I always
Mm-hmm.
lived at work.
Right.
For that last month, I played a lot of video games. I slept, caught up on my rest. I enjoyed myself a lot, but in the process also I talked to God a lot during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was dealing with that, I would cry for a lot every day because for one, I was mourning the loss of my relationship, and two, knowing that there wasn't going to be another one,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like it felt like I was falling apart.
Okay.
Yeah, so I felt like I was losing a piece of myself. Like it felt like it's like also mourning my identity. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who I was. I felt like I was like, and I was having like a breakdown. I'm like who am I? Like who even am I, you know? Um so I would just kind of distract myself, like, playing games and doing other stuff that I enjoying like my hobbies and stuff outside of that. But all the while, I felt very disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a walking black hole for this whole last month.
Okay.
And then after that, I started to, I just kind of like felt like a peace over me then. It was like a peace that came over me where like, okay, I wasn't sad about the relationship anymore. I wasn't sad about that anymore. I felt like I didn't feel anything. I felt blank, like a blank slate.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel attraction at all.
Okay.
I went from okay, I'm attracted to women, but I'm not commenting on their appearance anymore. Like I stopped flirting altogether. I deleted all of my apps that I used to flirt with women on. I deleted all my apps. I completely removed that from my mind. So when I was at work and I saw attractive women, I didn't go out of my way anymore to say anything to them. I kept it to myself. And sometimes I would think, oh, like this is really hard, like really hard. Like, and the thought would pop in my mind. And I'm like, no, like don't say anything, just shut up. And I went from that to seeing attractive women and just not feeling anything anymore.
Okay.
Just not feeling any desire whatsoever. Like all desire completely went away. I still didn't feel any attraction towards men.
So at this time, did you know why you did not feel that attraction anymore? Did you have an inkling of, I mean, other than it just happened, did you kind of sense that God was kind of working in your life a little bit?
Yes.
Yes.
Like,
Okay.
because I was trying to control it, but one of the
But
things
once
that
you gave up control.
the thing that I had to realize was, and this is what I came to realization through talking to him during that last month,
That
was
last month,
that
yeah.
I'm trying so hard to cling to this because I'm afraid. Like, and I keep insisting that that's who I am. There's nothing outside of that, but the word contradicts that. So I have to just stop trying to control it. I just have to let go and try to let God into my life,
Right.
and let him do the work. And that's what a lot of gay people have that. And I talk to gay people now about stuff like this, when I talk to them. Obviously they don't want to hear it. But a lot of them, they think it's a ridiculous idea. And I used to feel the same way. I used to see other ex-gay people talk about this, and I used to be like, that's ridiculous. Like, back when I was really secular, I used to be like, oh, and I used to laugh at stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm one of these people that I used to laugh at, and I always hear them say the same thing that I used to say, is that, like, you can't just pray it away, because, like, you pray and you ask them, like, to be different. And some gay people, like, they even went as far as to committing suicide because they couldn't get rid of those feelings,
Right.
And I felt suicidal at times too, because I actually felt like sometimes it it made me more lonely because I felt like it was even harder to find somebody to love because I was this way. Because it's a smaller percentage now that you're working with. And I used to say things like, oh, I wish I wasn't gay. Like, I used to cry and say, like, I wish I wasn't gay. Like, why do I have to be like this? Like, I hate myself. Like, it hurt, But at the same time, on the other end, there's, pride, right? So, like, we convinced ourselves that we're happy this way, but we're not. We're not. Right. And I hear other gay people repeating my testimony in that aspect where they will say that they tried to get rid of it. They tried to pray to God to remove it, and it didn't go away. But that's because it's like if somebody wants to stop drinking, but they have, like they said to God they want to stop drinking, and then right when they finished the prayer, they went to the store and they bought a 12-pack of beer and they stuck it in their fridge.
Right.
It's like, do you really want to stop, though? Are you really ready for that? It's like people want to snap their fingers and God is just going to be like, all right, you're not that. You don't want to do that. No, temptation is going to always be a part of our lives. It says that in the Bible.
Right.
Temptation is always going to be there, but he gives you the strength to overcome it.
A way of escape.
Absolutely. So, and that's what he did for me, because I took it upon myself to now remove the actions that led to certain thoughts and feelings. I started with the actions. I said, if I'm going to discipline my mind, if God is going to take this attraction away from me, well, I have to stop feeding it. So I stopped the behaviors first.
Okay.
Once you nip the behaviors, then everything else kind of follows. That's what a lot of gay people don't realize, and why they kind of continue in their lifestyle, because they expect that it's magically just going to disappear with no work of their own. But when you have a relationship with Christ, that's what it is. It's a relationship. You can't have a relationship with Christ and expect that Christ is going to do everything for you. Right. You got to do something for him too. You got to show him that you actually care about him, like that he's a central part in your life. How is it when you have friendships and relationships in your life? Like, if you're always the one to give, and they just use you, it's like, that's how some people treat the Lord. Some people treat the Lord that way. And right. A lot of us are guilty of it. So it was me coming to that realization, to where I understood what I had to do. And then, so when it started dissipating and I didn't feel it anymore the way I used to, I felt like a blank slate and I didn't feel anything. And then, over time, then I started to feel like attraction in a different way. Like, I started to be, when I was with women, I was always attracted to looks first. Like, I was always into looks first and personality second. I needed both personality and looks, but like, I always looked at the looks as the first part. If I wasn't attracted to them, like, appearance wise, then that's it. Like, there was nothing would go past that. But now, like, the way I am now and how I became is that I basically started to see it as like, okay, I'm attracted to qualities now. Like, I'm attracted to qualities in a man. Like, if a man has very like specific qualities and characteristics, like, that would make me attracted to how he looks too over time.
I'm sensing you've moved from the flesh to the spiritual world.
Yeah. So and that's what happened.
Yes.
That is what happened.
Yeah. Instead of looking at the flesh, which is looks. I mean, we're naturally humans. We are attracted to the opposite sex, and a girl's pretty. A guy is good looking. And that's normal. That's natural human behavior. But it goes beyond that. It can go beyond that. But we as Christians now, you could be a gorgeous girl, but you have a spirit of hate or anything else, malice, or you kind of would turn me off, because the spirit is like saying, it's like something's wrong.
Right.
And I think that's what's happening into your life is you're going from the fleshly looking, and there's nothing wrong with it in the sense of saying, hey, this guy is good looking. I mean, it's funny, an old time preacher used to say, there's nothing wrong with you driving down the road and seeing a good looking girl and saying she's good looking.
Yeah,
the problem is when you go around the block 4 times.
Right.
That's the problem.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. What I notice now is my mic on?
Yeah, it's on. I can hear you quite well. You're good. You're doing good.
I'm not. Oh, maybe. Oh, it fell off my ears. I think
well,
that's
yeah,
what it
you
is.
have to have it around your ears to hear. You have to have ears to hear.
It's the hat. It's like sliding.
It's
so
like, well, yeah, I noticed that, but
like,
it's not moving. So at least it's you're doing good. So
yeah,
we can hear you. Okay, so there's some good stuff. I mean, this is the best part of the 3-part story. We're not making it a 4-part, so we're already into about an hour, and you're doing good. I love this episode. This is really good. The anointing is there. The testimony is good. How would you like to wrap it up in the next few minutes?
Wrap it up in the next few minutes.
Because I know it's going to be hard because, there's a lot more, and maybe we'll have you back over time, and we'll do some more. But, as I said, we've already gone, an hour for one, and then 45 minutes for another one, and then almost an hour for this one. So we have people have been listening, which is good.
Yeah.
3 hours of you, which is great. I'm hoping people are continuing listening. But you've said some great things in the last half an hour. What would you like to leave somebody that's listening that might be in a situation that you've gone through and they don't feel hope, they feel lost, they feel like they are what they are? What would you say to them if you were like consulting them or giving them some woman godly advice? What would you say to them if they were sitting in that chair right across from where you're sitting right now? What would you tell them?
Trust in God's word. Just trust in his word. Don't look for loopholes. Don't slide your own understanding and your own interpretations into his word, looking for what you want it to say. Look at it and read what he actually says. Because at the end of the day, that will help you. That will help you so much, because it helped me when I realized I was trying to look for what I wanted it to say. When I finally stopped doing what I was doing, I made the moves to change because I realized that the world had a certain influence on me that changed what God intended for me to be. So I've reconnected now with my feminine energy. I have reconnected with that femininity that has existed in me all along that God intended for. But I had to find that because the world had it all mixed up. It was buried somewhere. It was buried, behind, traumas and basically the ups and downs of life. A lot of that will cloud people's judgment, and your identity will be lost in there somewhere. So trust in what he says and don't insert your own understanding. Just pray on it and try to take away certain actions that you are doing that's promoting the lifestyle, whatever lifestyle it is. Just try to cut all ties to it and then trust in him. Just have faith. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do is have faith, and he'll do the rest. He'll connect the rest of the dots for you.
Right. That is a good word to close on. I think there's probably more that we could talk about. I don't think you lack words, which is a good thing, and I think you have a lot to say. I think if people need to connect with you, maybe they have some more questions that you didn't talk about. You can go to our guest page on the millenniumbeat.com or tmb2000.net, and you go to the guest page and you'll see her picture, and then maybe you can chat with her, communicate with her whatever way she gave me on that if you have some other questions. But hopefully you guys have stuck around for the last 2 other interviews and then this one, and you've got something out of it, and it's kind of set the seed is growing, or something that's planted in you that you can make a change in your life. And Nikki has showed that, God has changed her. And it can change you too. And that's the purpose of the Millennium Beat, is encouraging the world one story at a time, but saying also that if God did it for Nikki, God can do it for you. He's not a respecter of persons. So we appreciate you sticking to us for the last 3 episodes. And stay tuned next week for our next guest. And thanks again for joining us. Nikki, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. God bless everybody. And we'll see you next week. This has been a Millennium Beat LLC production. Views and opinions of the guest are not always the views and opinions of the Millennium Beat LLC. Check us out on social media, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and TikTok at the Millennium Beat, or on Twitter at Millennium_Beat. If you would like to partner with us to reach the world, go to our website for more information. You can go to themillenniumbeat.com or tmb2000.net. Your financial support is greatly appreciated. We couldn't do all we do without your support. The Millennium Beat just updated our website from the ground up. Check it out at themillenniumbeat.com, or you can get there by using millenniumbeat.com or tmb2000.net, where you'll be redirected to the millenniumbeat.com's homepage. I want to thank Mass Inbound for their awesome work on our website. If you're looking for somebody to build your site, I recommend them. You can reach them at massinbound.com. That is massinbound.com. These are some of the things that you can find on our website. Homepage. You can watch our latest YouTube video or listen to our audio podcast. Also listed are some of the platforms our audio podcast is on. You'll find out when the next podcast will air and who the guest will be. On the top right, you will find 2 red buttons, Learn How to Help and Become a Guest. Under Learn How to Help, you can become a partner, sponsor, contributor, or contribute to the future Millennium Bus. You can give one-time or monthly recurring. The choice is yours. The other button is Be a Guest. Click it, go to the form, and fill it out, and we will get back to you. We would love to hear your story. Click the About Us drop-down where you'll find stats, where we are reaching people, and to find more information on our sponsors. Click on the podcast drop-down. Then click on the calendar tab where it will tell you when the shows will air and who will be on them. Or if you need to know about any meetups of the Millennium Beat staff, partners, or listeners. Also, there might be on the calendar an event at which the Millennium Beat staff will be at. Click the guest tab for all previous guests, links to their website, social media pages, and any store they might have. Click the forms drop down. There you'll find a release, be a guest, or become a sponsor form.